everyone to April's paint party. We are going to be painting super cute rain boots with flowers in them, and I just can't think of anything that reminds me more of spring. So I hope that you all enjoy what we're going to be doing today. We are going to use a stencil for this one, and I will show you how to do a stencil from just a plain sheet of paper and a pencil if you've never done that before. So I'm going to show you how to do the pink one, and you can use any color of flowers or boots that you would like, but I included the blue picture because I really love the background. We're not going to attempt that background today because the flowers and the boots are going to take us a long time. But if you like that background, you can always adjust your painting a little bit later. You'll also notice that these boots are shaped differently than these. We have a stencil for these boots, and I'll real quickly show you how to draw your own boots if you want to attempt this style. And these boots have a lot more contour and shading in them, and the contrast in these blue boots with the bright white stripes here make them look shiny, and these don't really have that, but that can easily be done for both, so it's really just what you want to do. And then the flowers, I was working on this as everybody was coming in, and there's just several different styles of flowers that you can do. So I don't exactly know what flowers I want to do in mind just yet, but I'll pull this out again to show you the general shapes and how to produce flowers. Okay, so if you're wanting to do this blue background, the style of this blue background, what they do is they put a lot of white paint in the middle to get it wet, and then they start with the blue here, and they're working back and forth with cross-hatching motions, and that means making an X with your brush to feather that color in. So you're going to take back and forth in the blue, bring it up a little bit into the white, go back and forth into the blue, and you're going to just feather in and out all the way around your canvas until you get it the way you like it. Let it dry and lay your stencil on top. So if you're wanting to attempt that background, go ahead and get started. I'm going to run through how to draw these boots really quick. I have my sheet of paper. I'm not ready to draw on my canvas just yet. The boots are fairly simple. They have some general shapes, like a long oval for this one. I would put a circle here. I guess that's an oval too, for the toe of that boot. I'm going to make this one longer. Okay, from the outside of this boot, you'll notice it comes in at the ankle and then back up to allow room for the gap. We're going to do that in a little bit, not too far. Bring the back out and just pull it up. They should be about the same width apart. It should almost line up. If it's a little off, that's okay. And I'm drawing the line darker so that you'll be able to see it better. Then you can bring down the toe. At this edge of the oval, we're going to do the edge of the boot. And a little bit out for the ankle. And then draw your line up or draw a line down to meet it. So we have one boot Now the next one we have to not forget about the instep. So I'm going to draw that first. And I'm just kind of eyeballing where I think the instep of this boot will be. I'm going to start there. I'm going to draw from the instep down under the toe. Then I'm going to draw the heel. And it's fairly straight across. This one has a nice black toe cap, so I'm going to draw that. I'm pulling the line down a little bit, and it's going to round out under the heel. Just to give the boot a 3D shape. Now these super straight lines, they don't really match with the curved edge, so I'm going to adjust, bring down that toe cap a little bit, and round out the boot edge. I'm going to do the same thing for the heel, and I'm going to follow that line almost parallel, and I'm going to readjust the instep. Erase that line so I don't get confused. Okay, the next step is this nice curve from the calf over the ankle to the top of the foot into the toes. There you go. You have two nice boots that we can put flowers in. And it's up to you about how tall you want to make them. I think it really just depends on your canvas size. You guys have probably noticed that I'm working with a really big canvas today. I'm using an 11 by 14, I believe, instead of my usual 8 by 10, because the stencil that I sent you, I felt like it was maybe just a touch too big for an 8 by 10, but an 8 by 10 could absolutely work if that's what you think. You just have to pull the boot closer to the bottom of the canvas so that you have room for your flowers up here. So it could work, it could work. All right, does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, so moving on, we're going to start on our pink boot, and this is where I'll show you how to do a stencil transfer with just a sheet of paper and a pencil. What you're going to do is turn the stencil over to the back. We're going to go very heavy, laying down the graphite. Now usually I'll cover the whole stencil with the side of my pencil, but since it's a really big stencil, I'm just going to follow the lines. And I'm using heavy pressure. We're going to go over these lines several times, going in different directions, just so that we lay down the maximum amount of graphite. Okay, when you feel like you have a sufficient amount of graphite on your stencil, you're going to turn it over. You're going to adjust the placement where you think it will fit nicely. I'm tilting the toes, should probably put it in frame. I'm tilting the toes down just a little bit so that the top of my boots where the flowers are going to come out will be relatively in the middle of my canvas. You don't have to do this, but I think it might look nice. And then I can adjust the shape of the toes to make them look more 3D. When you have it in a place you want it, you're going to take your same pencil and you're going to just scratch right over the line of your stencil. And by scratching back and forth, it will put the graphite that's on the back side of the paper right onto your canvas. Now remember to use heavy pressure, but don't scratch through the paper. I forgot the top of my boots, but that's okay because they're going to be covered in flowers. Okay, now that we have the boots in our canvas, we're going to work on the shading that's beneath the boots. And we're going to do that first so that we can cover up any errors by our boots. I think it would look really nice if we do some dark green and gray. I'm going to grab some dark green. I'm using Kelly green as my darkest shade of green. It can always mix out any color first. I'm going to mix a tiny bit of black is a color that overpowers just about anything. I need a lot of white and a tiny bit of black. Alright, I've got a nice gray color. It kind of looks like storm clouds to me. It's not white. It's not a full gray, but it will dry darker. So I'm putting it right on my canvas. My canvas is dry, and I'm working towards a feathering technique. So what I'm doing is swooping the brush at the edges so that the color feathers into the canvas. And by feathering, I mean the color is not completely solid as it comes away from the canvas brush. You can see the texture coming through in the white. There's not a whole lot of paint on my brush. I'm just working that paint into canvas. It looks a little crazy right now, but we'll pull it together. Now I'm happy with that. I'm going to rinse my brush because we're moving on to the green. I'm going to make sure my brush is dry. I'm going to make sure this gray is dry. So my favorite technique to get stuff to dry really fast is just shaking it back and forth. Before that dries all the way, I have an idea. Just to create more shadow, this gray color that I have and some more black. I'm going to mix that together really quick, just in a tiny little spot. And that's going to be really dark, just under where the boot sits. We're going to bring our brush back and forth to get that to blend into that gray. Brush, I'm going to shake it dry real quick. That's pretty dry. Okay. Now I'm using a brown brush. It's a medium-sized brown brush. I'm going to make sure it's nice and dry. I'm going for my Kelly green color. I'm putting that just under the boot. And I'm using the same feathering technique that we were doing with the gray. The brush is dry, my canvas is dry, and I'm just going to work that in. If it looks a little muddy, that's okay. That's exactly the look we're going for. We're giving the illusion that we're standing on the edge of a puddle in the springtime with nice green grass. When you put your first bit of green on there, you get it nice where you want it. We're going to come back and we're going to deepen just under where the boot sits. So you'll take your green, mix it with just the tiniest bit of black. Remember, black is very overpowering, so you need just a little bit on the tip of your brush. And we're going to follow just under where the boot sits. And we're going to feather that into the green as well. Got a good shadow. Boy, that looks really dark on the computer screen. It's not so dark in real life. It looks all kind of crazy and muddy. It's gonna work out. So I have the shadow. Now I'm gonna go back into my just regular Kelly green color, and we're gonna draw some blades of grass. They're just streaks upward using the feathering technique. You can have them going this way and that way. Getting a little bit smaller as we go towards the end of our puddle. They can be coming from behind the boot. And then after we paint the boot, you could even do a few in front if you wanted to. Okay, so I have got my grass, I've got my muddy puddle. Now we're moving on to the fun part, the color of our boots. So pink is a wonderful color, I absolutely love it. And I think I'm going to keep that color, although that blue was beautiful. When I was little, I had a pair of black boots with rainbow polka dots. I could do those, but I think that would be a little too tricky. I'm going to stick with pink, using Diva Pink. I'm going to make a pretty good sized puddle on my plate. I'm going to bust out my flat brush. It was over there soaking in the water, so I'm going to make sure it's nice and dry. And then this part's really easy. You're just gonna paint your whole boot. We want it to be one nice solid color. So it doesn't really matter which way you brush. If you can see the canvas beneath, you might want to go over, let the first coat dry and then go over it with a second coat. Alright, took my time getting everything painted in a nice thick layer. I can still almost see where the boots are separated in the middle, and that will help me keep my proportions correct when we go back to shape. So my boot's still pretty much wet. Now's the time we're going to bring in the shadows and the highlights so that it pulls the boots from 2D to 3D. So I have a whole bunch of pink on my brush already, and I just dipped the tip of my flat brush into the black. We're going to mix a shade darker than what we painted the entire boot. You can use your fine tip round brush or medium sized round brush if you prefer. And I think I might switch over. Just so that I can control where the color goes a bit easier. Now I'm gonna start right at the line that divides my boots. Everything's still nice and wet. And I'm gonna start moving my brush back and forth just to the, let's see, the right side of that line. As you move them back and forth, you're going to bring your brush farther and farther to the right. And we're going to blend it that direction and blend it to the right. I don't know if that's a little bit easier to see. Now taper, man, that's really hard to see. Maybe it's my screen. It's hard to see the contrast on my computer, and if I can't see it, I worry that you guys can't see it. So I'm pulling the shadow. It's pretty thick through here, and then it tapers to touch the tip of this boot right here. So it comes down and right to that boot. It doesn't follow the boot out, but it will on the toe cap. It'll be about the same color. I'm going to add some more contrast to this line. So I've added a little more black into the shadow shade that I mixed just a moment ago. It's a little easier to see. Okay, so we have our shadow shade. That is this color here in the middle. And we're going to paint the soles of our boots and the toe caps that same color. Now, once you have your insole and your toe cap painted, you're gonna put a little bit more black into that color that you were using, and we're gonna shade just on this side of the boot in the toe cap area. And I need some more paint. I've blended right there, and I've also pulled that really dark color just along the bottom of the boot. So right where it touches the green area. And now that I'm thinking about it, while we're adding that deep dark shadow, trying to get the right shade, we want it to be about the same color, but just a little darker than what we did for the toe caps. And we're going to work it right at the dividing line of the boots. Just separates them so much more. If the line's too harsh, you can always just wet your brush, dry it off a little bit on the paper towel, and go right back over the same lines. The water will help it blend out into the other colors. Okay, now that you have that shadow created, we're going to work with a shade that's lighter than what we did for the toe caps and in the shadows, but it's still going to have a little bit of darkening. It's not as dark as this middle color that we used. It's just a slight shade off. And we're going to add it right to this edge of this boot. I'm using water to help blend this, but be very careful not to overwork when you're water blending, because you can pull the dry paint straight off the canvas. And it's just a very rough blend job. I wanted to add a little bit of shadow on this side, but not as harsh as in the middle, because those boots are together, that gets no light right there. Okay, we're gonna let that dry and move on to the flowers. Is everybody ready? Okay, we're gonna move on because I didn't hear any objections. Okay, I'm flipping my palette around back to the green side. We're gonna work on, we should work on the flowers first. Just kidding, not the green. We'll use the green to fill everything in. If we were doing this one, I would feather in a lot of green, starting here just above the boots, and just do that cross hatching with the brush and feather the green out. And then a few stripes like we did for the grass here in all different directions. There's, I'm gonna grab my flat brush. Those swipes right there are made by a flat brush. All of these petals are done by a flat brush. You can tell by their boxy nature. Some have 5 petals, some only have 3 petals, some are just a couple of random petals that give you the illusion that there's a whole lot of flowers in this bouquet, but there's not a lot that you have to really focus on. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pretty decent flowers in this bunch. Now these flowers, I wouldn't say they're more difficult, but there's a lot more steps. And I'm going to show you how to paint these roses. Now I don't know how to paint exactly like in this picture. I'm going to show you how to paint like these. I will attempt to try those though. It's the same idea, it's different brush stroke though. And instead of letting it dry in between like we would with these, you do everything wet so the colors blend together. Okay, so I'm using the pink that I used in the boots, mixed with some black. And I'm gonna make extra pink than I normally would just because I don't want them out. I'm going for a mauve color, sort of like the color we used to paint the boot straps. Not the boot straps, the toe straps. And then I'm going to, oh, before I get started, I wanted to talk to you guys about flower shapes and how to do different kinds of flowers, because you could have a bouquet of tulips, you could have some daisies, you could put some lavender in there, you can do some swirly dudes or some roses. Now this shows you the colors that I used. I have, let's see, what color is this one? This one's bright magenta, and then mixed it with white, and mixed it with white again. Can't see that shape, but it's there. This is the first swipe, done with a flat brush. Then you do the other side, and you fill it in with like an egg shape. And we use this lightest color to swoop there, there, and just at the top of the egg, pulling it down into the middle, sort of going into a V pattern. And then you just brighten it up with some white on top. You can do tulips in all different colors. This guy is just a normal daisy, but you feather a contrast color in the middle out into the petals. Tons of fun. You can get creative and do a whole bunch of flowers in your bouquet or one type of flower. It's completely up to you. Okay, so using my medium-sized round brush, I'm going to start with just making a big blob. I'm going to say, yeah, I want a flower about here. And maybe I'll do one here. I'm going to do one right here. I'm not worried too much about the technical skills right now. I'm just working on kind of eyeballing them where they will look good on the painting. We're just filling up the space at the moment. You can do some big, some little. It's up to you. I'm gonna try and do a sideways one right there. I think that might look all right. You can hear me rinsing out my brush because I'm gonna move over to my flat brush. In that same color, I'm going to start making swoops on the outside edge of it. And those are going to be the rough petals. They don't have to be even. They just got to be swoopy. Right. Now, while everything's nice and wet, I'm going to take my Diva Pink, which is the same color as my book, same color I've been using. I'm going to get a fresh puddle. I did not rinse my brush. I'm just pulling some pink into my brush on top of this deep dark color. And we're going to continue making those swoopy motions. I'm not going to fill up the whole flower. Some areas are going to be lighter and some are darker. And that is how we blend. I'm making tiny C motions with my brush. So my swoops are kind of like that. After we have our lighter color on there, here's my white. You're going to need to get your white, do a good puddle of white. We're not going to rinse our brush, we're just packing on color. If you have a lot of paint in your brush, so you can wipe it on the paper towel that you have. We're going to load our brush in white. And this time we're going to be more careful about where we do our swoops. So we're going to focus on the top of the flowers and how the flower petals
Let's just figure it out. Monica, Fauna, Lindsay, me. Monica, Fauna, Lindsay, you. No, Lindsay. Okay, me.
Sorry. Okay. And then we're gonna pay attention to the way the petals fall. So along the edge, they're gonna be kind of angled, maybe even using the corner of our brush. Now in the centers, if they're starting to look a little funky, you could take a little bit of white. If you change back over to your round brush, and just make a little swirly. So the goal for these flowers is just to have kind of blocky patches of color. So if they look blocky, you're doing the right thing. I'm just going back in with my deep dark color. If I've made them too light, just to create some shadow in between where I imagine petals would be. There's really no rhyme or reason to these flowers. They're a little abstract. Anyway, play with them as long as you would like until you get them just the way you want them. Now that I have all the flowers made, I think I need one more right up here. If you're ready to move on to your leaves, and that's right where I'm at. So I'm cleaning my brushes and flip my pink color down to the green side. And I start by mixing a deep green. I'm going to do that by using my Killer Green and mixing with a little bit of black. And I'm using my medium-sized round brush. Okay, once you have a nice green color, we're going to start filling in the negative space in between the flowers. And I'm making a stippling motion. Using the stippling motion will give a lot of texture to the leaves with minimal effort. I know this part's a slow and tedious process, but it will be worth it in the end. Okay, once you get everything nice and filled in, we're gonna move back to the Kelly green color just by itself. Miss some spots over here first before I change my color. Okay, I'm gonna wipe that excess dark green off my brush, but I'm not gonna wet my brush. And then we're gonna take that Kelly green and we're gonna stipple it in just the same, but we're not gonna cover up that dark completely. I'm putting the Kelly green where I imagine I would see some light in between the flowers, where the sun is hitting the leaves. And then I'm gonna rinse my brush. And if you have a lighter green, I have the lemonade. If you don't have a lighter green, you can always mix your grass green or Kelly green, whatever you're using, with white to make a lighter shade. So I'm going to use this limeade color that I have. And I'm gonna steeple that over the Kelly green color. And I'm gonna cover even less space than I did before. So this is going just on the brightest of areas I imagine the sun would be hitting. So definitely along the top of your bouquet. Some of the leaves, kind of in the middle, and maybe just one or two little areas in the lower part of your bouquet. Now you can let that dry completely and add in some white dots using a Q-tip if you wanted to put some baby breath into it, or even tiny yellow flowers would be pretty. It really just depends on whatever color that you used for your flowers and your boots. But I'm super happy with the way my bouquet looks, and now I'm going to add some dots to my boots. And I'm going to do that by switching back over to a clean round brush and just white paint. There's no fancy trick to this, but I am going to work in one line at a time so that I can make sure to space them out almost evenly. Super cute. Love it. All right, friends. Oh, I almost forgot. We're going to add grass in front of the boots now that they're painted, and we do that just like before. I have all my dots done. My boots are dry. I'm going back to my green paint. I'm just making a couple of swipes. Just a few. And it brings the grass around front. The eye pieces all of the things together, and you have a beautiful spring painting. How are y'all doing? Do we have any questions? You doing all right? Good, good. I see a head shake from Miss Angela. Are we about ready to show our paintings? Need a couple more minutes. Got a little wild with my paint earlier. I have pink over here where I don't want it to be. So I'm going to try and scrub it off with some water.
I don't like my dots, so I'm just going to paint back over them.
Okay, that's absolutely okay. It's one of the reasons why I love acrylic paints so much, is once you dry, you can just cover them up and nobody would ever know. My dots kind of turned into oblong little oval guys. I think it's cute and charming though, so I'm not going to mess with them too much. Do we have any takers on paintings? I want to see what you have done. Did anybody try any different flowers?
Hey, how do I start video?
Oh, beautiful, Jenny. And you did the background. Lovely. Awesome, awesome.
Excited, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Ooh, Angela, I like the contrast of colors.
I love it. I love the yellow.
Those remind me of daisies. Is that the one
I
you're
want Margaret to pull hers back a little. I can't see it.
Who?
There you go. Oh, that's so
Wait, I don't have Margaret in my view. Ooh, Margaret, I love that blue color. Hold on. I'm going to stop share so everybody can.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
See you later, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.